Hey everyone, I'm Jessica Kramer with MRC-TV. Today we're speaking with Hans von Spakovsky from the Heritage Foundation to examine a controversial bill in the House called the For the People Act of 2021. Hans, thank you for joining.
Well, thanks for having me.
So this bill seems like a Democrat's dream and a total overhaul of future elections. Exactly what are the chances of this passing?
Well, it's passed the House on an almost straight party line vote. Only one Democratic representative from Mississippi voted against it. It's now in the Senate, which, as you know, is split evenly. So the key to this is one or two Democratic senators voting against it. A lot of people are hoping that Joe Manchin will realize that it's a very bad bill. But if none of them defect, then it's going to be up to a filibuster led by Minority Leader Mitch McConnell to prevent it from going. And as you know, Democrats are already talking about getting rid of the filibuster to prevent that.
Yes. I want to actually break this down and let our viewers know exactly what is in this. So in this bill, there would be automatic voter registration, even for those as young as 16 and 17 years old. Now, does this mean that 16-year-olds might actually be able to vote in certain states?
Well, they're not supposed to. You know, this is supposed to get them pre-registered for voting when they're 18. But as most folks may know, when you show up at a polling place to vote, they may have your name and your registration address, but they don't have your age.
Yeah.
So unless states radically change the way they're doing things, 16 and 17-year-olds may show up to vote and election officials won't realize they're not actually entitled to vote, particularly because this bill also makes it illegal for states to require anyone to show an actual ID when they show up to vote.
Yeah, I know that you've spoken at great lengths about that, and it looks like this bill would most definitely increase voter fraud between the no voter ID requirement and legalized ballot harvesting. How is any of this legal? I mean, do you expect any court challenges coming from this if it does pass?
Oh yeah. A number of attorney generals and many secretaries of state have protested this bill. I expect not only litigation claiming that many, if not all of its provisions are unconstitutional, but, you know, I think there's actually a possibility that some states may refuse to implement these provisions if it's passed because they believe it is such an invasion of their authority to run their own elections.
In your op-ed for Fox News, you touched on 8 points, and you said, quote, it would set up a public funding program for candidates running for Congress. Now, is this what liberals mean by this bill gets money out of politics, but really it just gets private money out of politics?
Right. In fact, it uses taxpayer money to help candidates run for office. Whenever that is mentioned, I find voters, it doesn't matter whether they're Democrats or Republicans, they get very upset about that, and they should, because it means that their tax money is going to be used to fund candidates running for Congress who they may disagree with vehemently and who they would never vote for in the ballot box, and yet they'll be subsidizing their campaigns.
I know, it's utterly ridiculous. On another note of ridiculousness, you did note that some regulations on speech were going to be added to this bill. Can you speak to exactly what is at risk here?
There are all kinds of new donor disclosure requirements in there, and they broaden the definition of campaign-related activity. Look, right now we've got laws saying that people who are engaged in politics, organizations like political action committees, they've got to disclose all their spending and who their donors are.
Yeah.
But this law would take very basic grassroots activity on issues before Congress and suddenly reclassifies that as campaign-related activities. And therefore, organizations that are working on issues like perhaps a gun control bill before Congress, so the National Rifle Association, suddenly they're going to have to start disclosing who many of their donors are. There is no reason for that other than they want to make those names public so that those people will be subject to harassment and intimidation for supporting particular organizations with particular points of view. There's no other reason for that.
And do you think that that's going to drive people to not donate if that information is going to be public?
Oh, yeah. Look, this might not be a problem for somebody who has a lot of money.
Yeah.
But for the average person, for example, someone who perhaps is a member of the National Rifle Association or is a member of some other organization that has views on issues that today are not considered politically acceptable, they have a regular job, they're a waitress in a restaurant or somewhere else. They may not want to contribute because they're afraid of losing their jobs.
Yeah. Now, one thing that looked like it maybe could be a positive is the proposed independent commission to redraw congressional districts and rid gerrymandering. The commission is supposed to be bipartisan, but who will decide who's on the commission, and what will the rubric be for deciding the new congressional districts?
Yeah, that nomenclature of it being independent is really fooling folks. This forces every state to set up a supposedly independent redistricting commission. But look, the political parties will have the ability to appoint the members to these commissions. And there's two things about that. In essence, you're going to have unaccountable bureaucrats drawing congressional districts in the states. You might not like the way a state legislator draws congressional districts where you live, but if you don't like it, you can vote them out of office. These members of these commissions will be totally unaccountable to voters. You can't vote them out of office. Plus, to be a citizen member of these commissions, not only do they set up quota systems for race and gender, but they require people to disclose their memberships and religious affiliations before you can even be considered. I think that is extremely dangerous, and I think it's very unconstitutional.
So each party would be picking people from the district to be on this commission?
Correct.
Okay. And then my other question would be, are they trying to make it more of like a block system to make the districts look more reasonable, or what's the end goal?
No, the end goal, I think, is to give even more power to left-wing advocacy groups who want to use redistricting to ensure that only people they support are elected, because they make changes in the conditions under which districts can be drawn, all of which favor, frankly, using race and things like that should not be considered in redistricting. This provision will force states to do that.
Now, if this bill is passed, do you think that this is going to ensure that Democrats win from here on out? I mean, is there really any hope for Republicans to even win with all of these new things in place?
I think it will make it very difficult for Republicans to win close elections, because what this bill does is it makes it easy to commit fraud, easy to get away with it, hard to detect, and frankly, it gives, I think, officials the ability to manipulate election results. And while occasionally Republicans might engage in that, I think Democrats also will try to take advantage of that to ensure that they win elections.
All right. Well, we appreciate your expertise on this issue. Thank you so much for coming on today.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you.